Well, hi guys, Emma again. Welcome back to my channel. I've been bullied a couple of times by friends asking for a review of a camera, and this is the one they picked out. And I know a lot of my channel followers probably aren't all that interested in vintage cameras, but hear me out. This will be probably the one and only camera review I'll ever do. When I started this channel, I was pretty adamant that I wasn't going to do camera or film tutorials or how to. I separate work and play a little bit. But this seems to be the easiest way to do this review. I could write it out, but it's pretty boring. So this might be the answer. This is the Leica M4. It was made in fairly large numbers in Germany between 1966 and 1975, and probably it's enough to say it's the best. I think it's the best camera, but that's open to discussion, and not everyone has that point of view, and depends on the camera I'm using every week. If I get this out and I mess around with it like I did today, yeah, I love it. It's a beautiful camera. Mine has the optional Leica meter on it. If we slip that off, basically it's a very standard, very basic camera. As far as styling goes, it's ergonomic. It's got a bit of weight in it. It weighs 550 grams apparently, and it's M mount, which means it's a bayonet mount camera. Now I have this camera and I've used it a lot, and it's done a lot of work for me, and I've shot a lot of film with it, and I still do. But I can't really afford a Leica lens for it, and if I could afford a Leica lens for it, I'd probably spend the money on my workshop or something else. So mostly I run this, which is a Voigtlander color scoper, a 50mm f2.5, which is a fantastic lens and should be reviewed on its own, but this is the M adapter, because this lens was bought originally for my earlier model Leica, which has 39mm screw thread. So this adapter automatically selects the frames in the viewfinder via a little lever in there. And that's on. So we've got film advance, we've got a shutter, we've got speeds from 1000 back down to 1 second, and through to bulb, which is open as long as the button's pressed. We've got a self timer on the front. We'll flick this round here. We can press the button. And we've got a self timer. This is your lens release button. This one's your film return. If we put this round here, we can rewind the film. And this one selects the frame lines. It's a frame line preview button or lever. It's 35, 50 and 90mm for different length lenses. It's fitted with standard 0.72 diopter viewfinder, so it's pretty good if you've got glasses or whatever. If your eyesight's not bad, it's alright. And it's got a frame count are the same as the M2 or the M3. On this side is the film rewind knob, which has actually got 2 gears in there to run it, so that you can still rewind the film without taking the meter off, basically. And that's the big distinguishing feature on the M4 as opposed to the M3, which was, it's probably a camera that has a more cult following the M3, but I like this. Now, this is the genuine Leica meter, the MC. It's a megawatt meter. If you can find a good one, they are good. And that's coupled to the speed controller, to the shutter speed. So that's spring loaded, and if we pull that up we can just slide him back on. One of the more frustrating things about this meter is that this just has basically a quadrant gear and another gear inside there, and it tends, if you play around with it once it's off the camera, it tends to become out of sync. That's a bit of an issue with this particular model. And it's great if you put it on the camera and leave it there, which this one certainly does, but you just have to fiddle around with it to get it back in the right place. And part of that is understanding how the camera works and what all the bits do. So when that's back in place and you have a bit of a close look here under the rewind lever, you can see there's a little notch that the meter keys into. It locates in the center of the speed selection knob. So basically that's the Leica M4. It's got a Rangefinder Viewfinder. I'm not sure if anyone's particularly familiar with those, but once you've shot with a rangefinder, it's sort of a bit unlike an SLR or anything else that you've ever seen. If we look through the viewfinder there, we can see a white square in the center. Now if we move the mount on the lens, we'll see that comes into focus there. The two patterns move together. That's pretty straightforward. So that's at infinity focus way down there. And if we put our fingers there, we'll see that the two patterns come together somewhere around the other side of the focusing range. You can see the move there. So that's how a rangefinder works. This particular camera only has one lens for the viewfinder, and it's worked out with the system of mirrors that the change in position to one to another, so that it's like crossing your eyes. The two images come together at a certain distance. So that's how a rangefinder works. If we look here too at the frame selection lever on the front, we can see the 90mm frame line just appear there right on one side. So that's how we focus the camera. One of the less well designed features of Leica cameras is that our tripod mount screw is fittings right on this end of the camera, which makes it very difficult to fit a panorama head to it. In the center here we've got a selector to give you some idea of the DIN or the ASA of your film. This isn't set at anything particular, but when you load a film into it, it's a good idea just to give that a spin, and then we know what's loaded into it. It's just a silly little German thing that's fairly useful in operation. On the back here you've got two flash plugs, just with plastic plugs in them for a standard flash fitting and flash sync. and this particular camera is synced at 1/60th of a second. It's a nice sunny day out here, and I'm guessing we're looking at probably about sunny 16 here. This mark here at 1/25th of a second, which changes your our shutter speed, and set our ASA at 100 ISO, and we move this line across here. We're shooting at about f16 here on this knob here, which is your f-stop. So that's pretty straightforward. It has two ranges on the meter. They should both correspond, and this one's pretty much the same, but for a dark room, then the more sensitive setting is probably the one that you would use. So some people are reluctant to buy a Leica because they hear that these are very difficult to load. This one isn't. Basically it's a matter of undoing this toggle here and turning it half a turn. Then the bottom comes off. We've got a diagram in the bottom there showing us how to load it, and we've got a door that folds up there so we can see what we're doing. We need to pull out a bit of the film, and that side goes in there, and that slides through the slot over the sprockets, and a couple of shots just to wind him up, and this one hooks back on there, pushes down on the other end, and you turn him half a turn, and you've got a loaded roll of film. Basically rewinding is the same. Remember to click your reverse lever over, wind him out with the knob on this side, and take the bottom off and open the door and slip your film out. So something you can do in the dark, and a little bit of practice doesn't hurt loading any camera. But this is fail safe. For Nikon, for example, the first couple of films you shoot, you're not going to get any results because it's not going to hook on the sprockets at the end. That's invariable, but this is positive, and it's a really good system. So that's the Leica M4. There are other variations. There's an M4P and M42, made in Canada, and there's black ones, and there's army green ones, and there's a myriad of different variations on them. They come in all sorts of different conditions. This one's a bit knocked about, but it is my everyday camera. And yeah, I say jump out and get it. There are a couple of niggly little problems with them that take some getting used to. One is the meter system and getting it on and off. Two is that the tripod's on one side, and that's probably about all the faults that I could find with this. There's so many positives to having a nice film camera. Of course the lens is what it's all about. This is just a box to hold the camera. It says I own a Leica. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and back to some workshop stuff next time.